very young people don't know who Fred is anymore, and it's a shame.
So you're the one?
Yes, I'm the one. Hi. Now you listen to me.
We were sitting there, just the most laid-back guy, the most untheatrical guy I've ever met. And he said to me, he said, you know, I was a sax player. And he said, I'm the least likely guy to be doing this.
And eventually, he stopped playing musical instruments at all and just concentrated on acting.
To have Fred MacMurray play my dad in my first film is...
Hello, Papa.
It was amazing. I mean, he's patient with my questions, and because we had a lot to do together in that movie.
He also was a very generous guy and would help me with certain things and do it in a way where he wasn't talking down to somebody who was his younger.
Now don't you worry about a thing, son. I'm in this with you all the way.
Delightful man, very sweet, very down to earth again. He was kind of basically a quiet man. He was not a big, like, center of attraction. He's the guy that would sit in the corner and smile at everybody else's jokes.
He was so used to being on sets, and it was my first movie, so I was just, you know, at alert at all times. But he would be reading a newspaper, reading the books, you know, he would be very sort of on the set, but very, you know, quiet and doing his own thing, and then he would go on the set and be right there.
His style was completely different than a lot of people that I worked with and what I tried to do later. He could repeat everything.
I do.
Would you mind repeating that?
I do.
And do everything exactly the same way. Exactly the same way. For take after take after take after take.
10 feet tall, and we could still go out there and beat them.
Every time it was the first time. And I used to marvel at him that way. You know, I would stay sometimes and watch him do stuff that I wasn't involved in, just to see him do it.
I'm sorry I missed the wedding. I couldn't help it.
Working with Fred MacMurray was going to school.
Starting with Absent-Minded Professor, and then we did Bon Voyage, and then we did Follow Me Boys, Happiest Millionaire. I mean, many films. In Millionaire, it was called upon him to sing, you know, so he learned an operatic aria, and he sang there.
You know, we were talking before about some actors dragging it out, slow actors. There was a fast actor, Fred MacMurray. Pop, 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 pop. The word just came out like he was saying it for the first time. I love that kind of acting. Jimmy Cagney, too, the same thing. They got to the point right away.
It could even trigger off the energies which give us rain, snow, sleet, electrical storms, blue skies, sunshine.
You know, he's a great dramatic actor, too, which many people don't know. He was a fabulous dramatic actor. He was a very well-rounded actor.
Everybody thinks of him of just being the father on My Three Sons, a television series, or he could play heavy that you hated. When you went to the movies and you sat there and you watched this man, you go, oh, I hate this guy. I can't believe he's, you know, he just was that believable and that talented. His comedic timing, his sense of what to do and the way he would play things was just unbelievable. It's like nobody else ever did.
$1 million client.
And I saw things in Shaggy Dog that I saw him do for years in My Three Sons. Fred MacMurray would never do a double take. You'd never go. Like they'd go, you know, I'd do about 3 or 4 little hitches in between, you know, and we used to kid him about that.
His galvanic fits and start of incomprehension at everything that's happening all through the movie, to me, are hilarious. I think he was the best light comic.
Ready, aim, fire.
You know, I played his son in at least a couple of pictures that I can think of. If we played it just as written, sometimes it would be flat and it wouldn't be interesting. He had a great talent for finding a fun kind of oblique way of doing something.
So if you're not going to cheer up, you'd better get off this ship, and you'd better get off right now. Because if you pull this long-faced hocus-pocus after we sail, I'm going to throw you overboard.
And it happened all the time with Fred.
George, the big alligator, was huge, but yet could move really fast. It was very scary. And then those little tiny alligators, we had to throw them and catch them. It was unbelievable. Tommy was in the kitchen or something with George, and George got loose. But I remember I was like terrified, screaming, you know, hollering, jumping up where the camera guys were. And, you know, Fred was pretty calm. I remember he sort of took on the role that he did in the movie. And he was kind of, you know, very sort of like the daddy in the house and, you know, taking care of it. And I was, you know, duly impressed.
Everything's all right now.
Not only was he a great actor, but he was an alligator wrangler. He was really wild.
I think that Walt saw himself in Fred to a great extent, and Walt saw something about Fred that, again, was a bigger version of every man.
Actually, Walt did identify with Fred. I think the characters he played, the absent-minded professor, and that would be Walt, yeah. Tinkering around in his backyard and everything. That's exactly what Walt did.
You know, there was all this business about how parsimonious he was and how cheap he was, and because he was very wealthy. And I never experienced him as cheap. He just wasn't stupid. He didn't throw his money around. I experienced him as someone who was intelligent and just thought, I don't need that. You know, and I don't think he ever wanted for anything, or anybody he ever loved wanted for anything.
Right now, it's been 40 years since I made these films. 40 years. Almost half a century. And it's as fresh in my mind as today. I loved him.
I've always been a fan of his, and like I say, he was, to me, he's one of the most underestimated actors of all time. He could do anything.
A real legend, but humble, very down to earth, not at all conscious of his stardom or his impact, or, you know, just a very nice, kind, talented man.
I got a chance to host the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson, to be the guest host. And they said, who do you want on? And I said, well, let's try to get Fred MacMurray. And I called him at home, and he called me back, and he said, you know, he said, I just don't do that well. I don't do talk shows well. I'm not interesting. He really felt that he was not interesting.
John, we're in the Marines.
We are, sir?
Yes. Bring out some of that good Madeira, will you?
He had such a unique style of speaking. You could almost, he was almost like, you know, Gary Cooper in his uniqueness. But he thought he was not special. And it may have been one of the things that made him special.
There's so many things I'd like to say, but it's a little hard to talk right now. All I can say is thank you for everything.